Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the channel. When I started my quest for the ultimate crawler wheels, Dlux Fab showed two new wheels that are demonstrating an evolution in weight hanger design, which is the same thing many of us are pursuing. Of course, Dlux originated the loaded dice drop center weight hanger design, and it looks like many of us are looking to take it to the next level. I do know the guys at Dlux, owner Jason Brockmeyer and the legendary Matt Beast, but I get in line and pay for my products just like you. Last week, I snagged a pair of the 2-2 loaded dice beadlock wheels, what they are calling LDB wheels, and a new 6-pack loaded dice weight. Let's take a little detour from my concept and take a close look at how these wheels were designed. On this channel, we look at the science behind our grown-up toys. So let's take a look at this new Dlux wheel. Here it is fully assembled. It's a pretty straightforward design. You start with these two aluminum plates and you bolt them together across here with these spacers. These spacers are 20 millimeters. I've been running 22 and 25 wide spacers. When I had this is the standard Dlux beadlock wheel that is not loaded dice compatible, and I ordered their widest ones, which were 25. I will do a video at some point on why I like wider rims. They do support the sidewalls better. So this is 25. There's no reason why you couldn't build this wheel wider as well. So we've got an inside plate and an outside plate. These appear to be identical, which is great. And these bolts are flatheads. They're countersunk flush, which is nice, so you don't have the bump of a bolt head interfering with the tire. And they've only got 4 bolts going across. 1, 2, 3, 4. That doesn't seem like a lot of support in between. I wonder if they're anticipating the foam pushing down into this area, kind of like what I was thinking. Their standard non-beadlock wheel has 6 cross bridges. This one only has 4. Also, you have to buy the loaded die specific Crawler Innovations inside foam. It's a larger diameter because you can see the diameter is quite a bit bigger. If you bought a standard 2-stage foam, you would really have to stretch it onto this wheel. So they have a specific, so Dlux has a custom-made dual density Crawler Innovations foam specifically for loaded dice. And I suspect that custom foam, I forgot to order them, is probably not as wide as I would like. I'm guessing it's quite narrow. So I'm not sure if that will work for me or if I need to maybe modify that foam if I went to a wider center spacer. Now let's take a look at the carbon plates here. So their outer plate is thicker than the inner beadlock plate, which makes sense because this outer plate is the one that connects to the hex adapter and supports really all the load of the whole wheel. So it makes sense to have this outer one a little bit thicker. This looks like it's about started with a 3 millimeter plate, more or less. And on their non-beadlock version, this one's a lot smaller. It's about 1.5 millimeters. And I'll take this apart so we can look a little bit closer. The diameter on the new one is maybe 0.5 millimeter bigger. Let's see. 64. It's almost 2 millimeters bigger diameter. So that means this will stretch into the bead a little bit tighter than this one will. And I'm fine with that. Let's take a look at the inside ring. This one is 2 millimeters. So I just took apart the standard beadlock wheel, and this one is again a real thin 1/6. Yeah, this is probably, oh, I'm getting all different measurements on this. outer plate. This is either 1.5 or it's a 1/16 of an inch, which is about 1.6. Let's compare this to the new one. Yeah, so the inner bead is also a little bit bigger diameter. Let's see if they got any more clearance, because I found that these inside bumps don't clear a lot of knuckles. They definitely don't clear a standard Capra Portal plastic knuckle, and they actually don't clear Dlux's knuckles without a little grinding. So this is the old one, this is the new one. It looks like they weren't able to add any additional clearance. But what's interesting is they did make the bolts smaller. So these inside bolts are now 2.5s, which honestly I'm not a fan of 2.5s. So they made the beadlock bolts smaller, 2.5. Why? I don't know. I would have thought it was to gain more clearance, but it doesn't seem like they did gain any more clearance anywhere. So this thread engagement here looks like it's 3 millimeters, just over 3 millimeters in a 2.5. That's not a lot of meat. I'm sure it works fine, but personally, I like to see bigger bolts with more engagement, especially if you're threading into aluminum. Let's compare to my beadlock ring. As you can see, I've probably got 2 millimeters more clearance on the inside, and I'm using M3 bolts all around, and I'm using flathead countersunk bolts, so this whole outside surface is flush, so you don't get hung up on your beadlock bolt heads. And let's check this one more time. This was 64. I only went to 63 on mine because I felt like I didn't want to stretch it too much into the tire. Let me show you what I mean. So with a larger diameter beadlock, you've got to stretch the tire to fit around it. And for me, 63 was the number I liked. Everybody uses a little different number. I think Dlux probably wanted a little bit more grip, so they've stretched theirs to about 64, which is fine. Looks like it goes in there a-okay. Now I also got their new 6-pack loaded dice hanger. It's brass, it's really a nice piece of work. And let's compare that to the old hanger. So the old hanger had 8 tungsten slug options, and these uppermost slugs are level with the center of the axle. So these 2 tungsten slugs aren't helping lower your CG. At least they're not helping any more than just putting a heavier axle, a heavier knuckle, or a brass wheel spacer. The whole premise of this concept is to push the weight down. So they've clearly done that on this. They've actually eliminated these 2 upper options because they probably concluded, same as me, that these 2 aren't helping and that you can do the same thing easier with brass axle spacers. So this only has the lower 6, which by default pushes the center of gravity lower, but it also decreases the total weight because you've only got 6 instead of 8. Now I have the aluminum version of this. It also comes in plastic and brass. And think with me here for a minute, which one would have the lower center of gravity? The one with the least weight up here. So the plastic one actually has a lower center of gravity because it's lighter higher up. So even though a plastic housing would be lighter total weight, it has a lower CG. And the full brass hanger is going to have a higher CG, but a higher total weight. So you can see this whole package is better because they've eliminated the high brass weight up here and pushed it all down to the bottom. This is great. I will say, though, that the primary reason I believe that they made this narrower is so you could get it into the wheel. This old one here, I'd be very surprised if you could put that on. Well, maybe. I mean, I don't run this hanger, so I don't know, but once you've got your hex adapter on here, I think this is going to be a little tricky to get the wheel on and off. I have heard people complain about that. So this narrower one is very much welcome because your wheel will slide on more easily. Theoretically. Yeah, there we go. So I think that's a really beautiful arrangement. And the wheel should be able to come off your vehicle. I love the attention to detail. They've machined out this section here to save even more weight. I'd expect nothing less from them. And they've also countersunk these bolt heads. Oh yeah, look at that. So that bead lock bolt is not quite flush, but it's much more flush, and it has a nice round head. So this is not going to get hung up as much. On my design, I went full countersunk flush. So I think with this plate, as thick as it is, that's a great solution. This is a great approach to help sink that head in. Really nice work. One more point, it looks like they're using 3 bolts to hold the hub on. My guess is part of that is to maintain this 3-spoke aesthetic, which is really cool, in my opinion anyway. But also, 3 bolts is probably all you need. I've seen a lot of people only run 3 bolts here anyway, so this is just a really simple weight-saving trick. Doesn't save a lot, but it does show the attention to detail. Let's just get a weight comparison. This is really apples to oranges because this is a non-beadlock version and it's wider, but just for reference, this is 31 grams and this new one is 38 grams. Probably call it 40 grams if we were to put wider spacers on. So for less than 10 grams, you can go from a very standard wheel to a beadlock loaded dice wheel, which will offer you way better performance. I think this is really a great evolution of the loaded dice concept, and I look very much forward to trying out the extreme version that is even bigger diameter with weight sunk even lower. Hopefully that'll be available someday. Take care.